Hi, everyone. Welcome to session one of our Wild Power Retreat. We're so grateful to have you with us. This 10 days is all about sharing inspiring conversations to inspire you to make this your year of cycle awareness, to enhance your vitality and your health, to expand your creative potential, and to deepen you into your leadership in this year, 2022. Through the power and magic of menstrual cycle awareness. I'm here with Sjanie, Hugo-Wurlitzer, and Alexandra Pope, who are the co-founders of Red School. They're the authors of Wild Power, the book, the Hay House book. They're the teachers of the Menstruality Leadership Program, and they're also the guides for the Wild Power immersion, which starts on February the 8th, and which we'll be telling you more about later. Today's conversation with them is all about how to actually do this tracking of the rhythm and flow of your beautiful and brilliant menstrual cycle exactly as it is. We're not looking for some perfect cycle here. This is your cycle and developing your intimacy with your own experience. So if you've just begun cycle awareness or you're yet to begin, we're going to share some of the fundamentals of how to actually track. And if you've been doing this for a while, we're going to explore some different approaches for how you can take your tracking process deeper. As usual, we're going to start with a cycle check-in. And this is a way that we practice cycle check-ins in the team sometimes. And on our programs, it's simply sharing the cycle day and then 3 words, which go some way to illustrate how you're feeling or how your cycle day is. So let's start with you, Sjanie.
Oh, thanks, Sophie. I'm day 4 today, and I'm feeling weary and sparse and fragile.
Thank you.
Oh, Shani. And I'm sending love to you.
Thank you.
Yes, because I'm full of abundance on day 14 of the moon cycle. And I was reflecting on it. I was thinking, I feel generous and um, present to others, generosity and chilled, relaxed, and easy.
Okay,
Mm,
so we're spanning 2 ends of the cycle here,
we
which feels
are.
perfect for this conversation, actually.
Yeah.
Let's kick off. This is all about inspiring everyone listening and us to make this our year of menstrual cycle awareness. So I thought we could kick off by hearing how this whole cycle awareness story began for Red School.
Sophie, it was moi. I'm the guilty party here, and it's my body that directed the show entirely. Just before my 31st birthday, I got the menstrual pain from hell. And this pain would last for up to 4 days sometimes. And it came every month. It was absolutely bonkers. And I did not want to take drugs. I did not want to take surgery as a kind of solution. I might have used drugs in the moment occasionally, but it was not the answer. And I remember having this very conscious thought of my body is talking to me and I am going to listen to it. And what that meant for me was actually really paying attention to menstruation. So that's how it sort of first began. I should add, I was already practicing fertility awareness. So I had an awareness of my cycle in terms of the physical changes for contraceptive purposes. But it was this decision to really clock where I was in the cycle so that I could give space to menstruation. That was the key thing. So the pain forced me to give space to menstruation so that I didn't have to take drugs to sort of keep going in the world. I would actually organize my life around this. It was imperfect. It didn't always work out quite like this, but I had a degree of control in my working life. So this was the early prototype of Menstrual Cycle Awareness. Yeah, outrageous menstrual pain. We have to give thanks for it.
Thank you. Let's look at the basic things that we all need to be tracking with the cycle. So you said you started with fertility awareness and then you took it to the next level deeper. So what was that? So fertility awareness, you're tracking.
Well, I was tracking, I was taking my temperature and checking my mucus basically. But I also knew other signs in my body. I always remember, I would often say, oh, I've ovulated. And not because of the temperature, because I knew I had ovulated because suddenly my breasts were sort of pachung. I was used to feel pachung. Also, because I had some sort of fatigue, in my 30s and 40s, chronic fatigue stuff I was dealing with, and my energy was always a bit low. But my energy seemed to sort of be suddenly back in gear around ovulation. So it was temperature, mucus, and then just noticing all these other physical signs. Um, and then from there, I began to really appreciate the autumn energies more. I can so clearly remember one day standing at the kitchen sink, washing up, and I could feel suddenly these storm clouds gathering, and I could feel my energy drop down another gear. And this was a really good feeling because I loved the autumn. I could feel my energy drop down a gear, and I'd go, I'm in the autumn now. Yes, and I could feel this grunt in my system, like I had drive, I had chi to go and do stuff. Um, so it was then, clocking, I became just more acutely aware because I was aware of when menstruation was due. I started just to become more aware of the whole atmosphere of my cycle.
Okay, and then Red School was born eventually. That's a bigger story.
Yes.
And this idea of menstrual cycle awareness was born, and you formally named it as a practice. So, can we look at what you would guide people to track on the sort of basic level? What are the fundamentals? What are the fundamentals to cycle awareness?
So we've covered the body literacy layer. So that really feels important. I think so many of us missed out on that education, that it's really good to start with that body literacy level of fertility awareness. So then menstrual cycle awareness. What are we paying attention to here? So Alexandra started to talk about that with these sort of inner autumn energies. So with menstrual cycle awareness, we are tracking we talk about it as our inner atmosphere, like our internal weather system, the
Oh, yes.
landscape, yeah, the landscape of our being on any given day. So what that means is we're noticing things like the mood we're in. What sort of mood are we in? We're noticing our energy levels. Um, and we're noticing things like how our mind is operating, the sort of type of mental energy or mental activity that we're inhabiting on any given day. Um, and other things I pay attention to are like the degree of sensitivity I feel. How strong is my feeling life, for example, because that seems to fluctuate and change. I also pay attention to where my attention is drawn to at any given time. So that's something that I really notice fluctuates, whether I'm drawn to a more kind of internal focus or a more external focus. So those are other good things to notice. So you are really tracking what it's like to be you on any given day, because hey, who would have guessed you aren't the same every day? So it's like, who am I today? Like, how am I showing up in the world? What am I feeling? What am I needing? Where is my energy? What's cooking for me? And then there's one other piece which we can get into in a bit more detail later, but there are certain sort of themes that come up. There may be certain beliefs that are triggered at certain times, like you go into a certain sort of story about something, or the themes may seem connected to external events. For example, it's a certain like argument you have with your partner, or a certain tussle you have with your child. Like these themes, these activation points, I don't know what you want to call them, but it's quite fascinating to notice those as well. And as part of that, that sort of those flavors, also your dreams change, or whether you do or don't dream changes, and the kinds of dreams you have change. I have found this layer of observing my dreams really, really fascinating. We can talk more about that in a minute, Sophie, but actually tracking your dreams is a very powerful way of observing your cycle experience at a much deeper level. So yeah, that's essentially the observation points. I don't know, Alexandra, have you got anything to add on that? Or
I am absolutely loving all the way you have described all this, and I particularly love that phrase, the weather patterns in ourselves, the emotional weather patterns. But and the way you speak about focus, and I mean all the obvious things of energy and feeling and so on. And is there anything more I would add to that? I was thinking, there is one thing I want to put in actually, but I was thinking about, yes, notice where you have your fights. And you
oh yes.
yes, but you sort of almost alluded to that.
Ah,
You spoke about sort of activation points. I kind of
you
like,
reminded me of the other one. So fights reminded me of sex for some bizarre
oh,
reason.
you,
But yes, sexual energy, that's of course the other thing
sexual
to
energy, of
track,
course.
because that really shifts, yeah, your sexual energy and your desire, and what's happening in your kind of sensual body. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly, yes, that is so crucial, just paying attention to the whole sensual experience of your body. And then this relational process that you started to allude to, Shani, and the different dynamics of the relational process
Hmm.
that we move through in the menstrual month are just so fascinating to clock. And I'm now this. I often tell this story. And it's cracking me up, and I instantly think of my wonderful friend Marie in Australia, who used to have this argument with her daughter or her son. It's day 25. Don't argue with me. Because the subtext was because if you do, you will lose. Day. But it is just so fun to bring your cycle awareness into that much detail that you can even notice specific days where certain things reliably occur for you.
I'm going to ask you next how we can take this the next level deeper. But before we do, I want to summarize what you've said. And for anyone that's listening who's following along with the Wild Power Journal, there's a note section where you might want to take these down so that as you're going through your year of cycle awareness, and you want some inspiration for how to track, then these will be here for you. So the fundamentals: tracking your mood, your energy levels, your mental activity, your sensitivity, your sexual or sensual energy, whether your focus is internal or external, the kind of themes or beliefs that you're noticing coming up at different phases, the arguments or fights or activation points, and your relational process. Could you just explain that again, Alexandra, the relational process, what you mean by that?
Well, how you relate to people. Yeah, just, the kind of energy, the different kinds of energies that you have. And, I can feel how Shani and my relationship shifts through the menstrual month. There's, subtly different dynamics that happen, and how we occupy then different roles in our relationship. It's really fascinating, and
Mhm.
it's very lovely. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
It's
it's
like
really,
who's looking after who,
yeah,
really, isn't
actually, that's what I was thinking, Shirley, because I think
Who's
when
looking
you're in
after
the
who?
yeah, when you're in the summer of your cycle, I just I'm carried on your tailwind, I'm so cool.
Uh-huh.
And then when you go into the autumn, I can just feel my motherly energy coming in and protecting you, and yeah, and then that creative tension that happens in the autumn, where we both are, it's like we both sort of spark up, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's a different kind of spark that happens that's more provocative and challenging. And then
Mm-hmm.
in the spring, I can get anything past you then. You're
Oh,
so
like
sweet. You're
sweet.
so sweet and so tender. And I'll go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, this is what we do. This is how it should be. And you go, yeah, 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 yeah. You're just so trusting. And I can also get things past you just before you bleed.
Yeah,
Post all the argy-bargy of the autumn. Then where I can't
it's
get
true.
anything
I'm like,
past you.
whatever. She can
Whatever.
ask me anything. She shall me, yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
but I'm more yeah, I've got that lovely it's kind of motherly energy that comes in, but it's so nice that, and then sort of that would be in with your nearest and dearest, you're in your relationship with your partner, your lover, your husband, wife, or your you've got that changing dynamic. It's good to know about, because if you don't know about it, then you may often see it as problematic as well. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
the relational one. Yeah.
I put my day 7, 20, 7, 14, 21, and 28 in our shared calendar so that he knows where I am. And I see it when it's day 21, he's like, how you doing? Sort of feeling into it. So Sjanie, you mentioned dreams as a gateway to go deeper, to take your cycle awareness practice deeper. Could we speak to that now for people who might have been tracking for a while and they want to hear from you too? Okay, what are the next levels to this?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with dreams and see where we go.
Mm-hmm. So what I've discovered about dreams and dreaming is that if I go to sleep with an intention to remember my dreams, that really helps. And if I have a journal next to my bed, and I know that the first thing I'm going to do in the morning is pick my journal up and write down anything that I've experienced during the night, that seems to bring a different kind of awareness to the foreground for me. And my dreamscape starts to come more into my awareness. And what I have noticed, but this is the thing I find really fascinating, is the dream, and I don't obviously dream every night or remember my dreams every night, but there are dreams that I have that are like precursors to the shifting energy that is about to come in my cycle.
Yes.
Yeah. You know how you can wake up one day and just be in a completely different place, like you were talking about, Alexandra, that in the autumn, just suddenly, there's this like sort of stormy atmosphere. I was noticing that I was having dreams that would be foretelling, a precognition, if you like, that was coming. The dream would usher in the atmosphere, and then I would wake up and I would track the dream, and I would almost be I was that much more closer to my experience than when I'm not tracking my dreams. It's like I would wake up and be like, yes, the tide has changed, the gear has shifted, I'm in this new place. And it would take me less by surprise. I would have more spaciousness around myself because of it. I'd be able to tend to my needs more easily because of it. So that's where dream tracking really helped me to pace my changing mood and energy in a much more subtle and kind of nuanced way. And then the next level of this, which is, Alexandra and I laugh about this all the time, and I know she has dreams like this as well. There are certain underbelly dreams. This is the only way I can describe them. Shadow dreams, something really from the deep murkiness of my psyche that comes up over and over and over in my autumn. And it has changed over the years. Like at one point in my life, I was having these black dog dreams where I was being attacked by this big black dog in the inner autumn of my cycle. The dream took loads of forms, but I was always being attacked by this big black dog. Now my autumn dreams are of a more sexual nature, where I'm having affairs with all sorts of other people, and just like they're full of sexual deviance. And I sort of wake up in the morning and to my husband, morning sweetie. I'm all flushed in the face, you have a lovely night with whoever I was with last night. Marital affairs while I sleep, but that's my current autumn dream. So it's fascinating, and I've sat with those dreams, and they've unfolded so much meaning for me and given me such insight into my own ultimately relationship to power, is how I would describe it. They've given me really insights into my relationship with power. Yeah.
So it's one of the ways that our cycles work us to enhance our vitality and creativity and leadership is happening while we're sleeping.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Clever cycle.
Yeah.
So clever.
Clever
Very clever cycle.
Yeah, but the secret ingredient here is your attention to that and your care of it.
Yeah. Hence the practice of menstrual cycle awareness. That is the key.
Alexandra, you often speak about the importance of tracking the crossover days. That could be good to bring in here.
Well, it's interesting when you spoke about those days you put into the calendar for your husband. I think those are the crossover days for you, sort of, aren't they? Yes. So the crossover day is the day where, and Sjanie, of course, was alluding to it with her dreams, that her dream sort of foretells it. It's where you're moving from one inner season to another. And the more that you pay attention to your cycle, the more you're going to pick up these clues that tell you you've shifted gear. They're like the gear shift moments in the cycle process. And so Sjanie has picked up how her dreams can signal it. And there's very obvious ones, I think, like the crossover from the summer into the autumn. I think most people will probably catch that shift. And probably the other shift that was always very powerful for me was from the inner autumn to the inner winter, that crossover into the bleed. And it's just really fun to watch your pattern over a few months, and to see if you can pick up those clues, what those clues are for you. And apart from it being incredibly useful having that information, it is feeling it in your being is just another movement towards greater intimacy with yourself, and tracking what we like to call the power process within oneself, which of course is what our wild power immersion is about. But when you're coming into that level of awareness, it brings in a degree, much greater harmony into your system. It also creates harmony around, because of course you see your partners, tracking, thinking, hey. And I'm also thinking of our beloved Louise and her partner, and how he was looking at her one day and going, "You've crossed over, haven't you?" And she sort of nods, and he goes, "Shit, this stuff is real." I just love that. This stuff is real. It is actually, And of course, you're bringing that level of intimacy into your relationship then, that level of vacuity. So it's very lovely. Any level of awareness you bring to your cycle, because I'm now just remembering when I used to feel that moment of ovulation, it just felt like this sweet secret in me, that and this feeling of being really plugged into me, and feeling the magic of my body at work. And that's just at a physical level. But then when you bring that to the emotional and the energetic, it's just another layer of kind of sweetness with yourself, isn't it, Sjanie?
Mhm.
and feeling in the flow of who you are.
Mm.
Yeah.
Let's speak to people who might not experience much change and shift at the beginning as they're tracking their cycle, because I know that can happen for people.
Mhm.
It can.
Yes, Sophie. I think of our menstrual cycles as, well, they're like, I want to say our friends, but it's something that we're coming into or having a relationship with. And when you meet someone for the first time, you don't really know them. You know they're there, but there's just there is not a level of intimacy yet. That takes time, and that takes like hanging out with them and being really curious and sticking with it. That's how you get to know someone. And it's very, very much the same with this practice of menstrual cycle awareness. It's not uncommon, to be charting your cycle and to not be experiencing very much at first. But the important thing here is to just keep on going. And the next piece I think is really important, is to keep noticing what is happening. Because often what people are really negotiating is the fact that they think they should be experiencing X, Y, or Z, and therefore they aren't really noticing what they are experiencing. And, this is true for all of us, in fact. I mean, especially if you've read our book, Wild Power, the book is packed full of, stories, ideas, examples of it, like an archetypal experience. But each one of us is going to be having our own very singular version of that, which isn't going to be colored in all the same ways you've heard about or read about. So this is about getting really honest and real with yourself and going, what am I actually experiencing? Not what should I be experiencing, what should be more, what should be less, but actually noticing what you're experiencing. So this practice of each and every day, just writing down what day of your cycle you're on and writing something about what is real for you on that day, what you are noticing. If you stick with it, just stick with it, keep going. Over time, it's like more is revealed to you. And over time, you'll look back and be like, oh my word, there is a pattern. And that subtlety of experience will become stronger and deeper and richer over time. And this is what is, for me, so profound about the practice of cycle awareness. I've been doing it for years, and in lots of different ways and a lot of detail. And it keeps on giving. The more I stay with it, the deeper I'm going with it and the deeper my relationship is. So yes, just basically don't give up, keep going. Yeah, and get support. I think that's the other thing, is like have somebody to share your experience with. That also really helps.
And that's the one of the main reasons why we've created this retreat. It's so that there can be an atmosphere of support and encouragement and upliftment for people as they're tracking their cycles, so that you can make this your year of cycle awareness.
Yeah.
So our invitation for you over these 10 days is you can use the Wild Power journal that we've created, or you can just use a notebook pad or like your lip liner on a napkin, whatever you've got, to figure out what cycle day you're on, and then write something about your actual experience. And like Sjanie said, we're following the big red rule here, which is your cycle experience trumps all. We're not looking for some perfect cycle, or it doesn't have to, it's okay if it isn't following the archetypal cycle. It's what your own experience is most important. And yeah, I wanted to share a few things about how to get the most out of this experience, you two. One would be to download the journal and follow along. You can use it to track your cycle day. Another one is to show up and listen to each of these different conversations that we have coming, because each one is with someone who's been deeply worked by their cycle and brings wisdom from a different angle. So there's Nicole Jardim speaking more about stress, working with your cycle to create balance and manage stress. There's Lisa looking at how it can enhance your vitality and your health. Alexandra and Sjanie, I'm really excited about this one. We'll be looking at creativity and how your cycle can support your creative process with whatever you're creating in your life. And then, if you feel inspired, we're continuing the year of cycle awareness with our wild power immersion, which Alexandra spoke about just now. It's a really beautiful. Is there a sentence or two you could say about the wild power immersion and how it can support people to really be initiated into their power process through their cycle?
Yeah, I mean, it really opens the door, doesn't it, Shani? Because of the teachings we give, but the exercise that we do, and then the subsequent kind of conversation out of that, it almost opens a trapdoor into a deeper relationship or awareness of what's going on. You get to see behind the scenes of your lived experience of the process, and in that you then just awaken a whole other kind of understanding, insight, and relationship to yourself, don't you, Shani? It's
That's very well described. And then the other piece of the immersion is that there are listening circles and listening partnerships and an online community space. So you get to share what's happening for you and have that witnessed and affirmed by others. And don't take that step for granted, because when cycle awareness is just our own little private experience, we can often wonder if we're making it up or if it really is real. And that act of sharing what's happening for you and others going, we get it, we understand, and yes, that this is relatable, and this is part of the plethora of experiences that we can have in our cycle, it makes more real what you've noticed. And then the next time round, it's like that awareness and that muscle to take yourself seriously has grown. And that is a very, very powerful part of this immersion, is you're actually being held in something and supported and affirmed. And we make such good companions for each other with this menstrual cycle journey, don't we?
I mean, there's just something I really want to affirm here, that, whether you're just a beginner starting out or whether you're a seasoned cycle awareness practitioner, I can't say this more strongly. The cycle keeps on giving right up until the day it stops. And so your cycle awareness practice is, as Shani's already alluded to, you can just go deeper and deeper into it, because it is a spiritual path and practice ultimately. I mean, it has all these levels to it, but that at its heart, and that's the thing you're growing into, that's the muscle that you're developing to be able to embody this deep evolutionary initiatory process that's held within that. And I think, people, you can redo this wild power immersion each year, you see, and then go to another level with it. So it's just a great program for the ongoing process of expanding your experience of what cycle awareness can offer you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, you two. Let's see if we can distill this conversation down into a golden nugget, or, a final word that you would like to share that can help to inspire and encourage our listeners to make this their year of menstrual cycle awareness.
I'd like to start because it's something I've been wanting to say since the beginning of this conversation. Don't make the practice of menstrual cycle awareness another thing that you have to do. Find your way to make it part of your everyday life, however you need to do that. So if it needs to be really simple, like you just note it in your existing Google Calendar, and when you're going to sleep at night, you write down 3 words that describe your day. Whatever is the most simple way, so you can keep your practice going regardless. Like, always know what day of your cycle you're on, and always check in with how that day is for you. Then there are options for going deeper with it and expanding and journaling and doing all sorts of artwork and all kinds of wonderful ways of deeper inquiry. But find a way of making it like brushing your teeth or whatever you do every day that's just non-negotiable and simple. Yeah, that's, if this is going to be a year of cycle awareness, find a way to make it absolutely doable, come rain or shine.
And a kind of an adventure, you know, just so you can enjoy doing it. I think that's so important what you've just said, Shani, um, because it is a kind of adventure you're embarking on. And the key thing I want to say is to really trust your experience of the cycle. Trust what is emerging, the pattern that's emerging with you. Trust that. Trust yourself.
Beautiful. Thank you. So we're going to continue the Wild Power Retreat in 2 days' time with session 2 with Lisa Hendrickson Jack, where we'll be exploring how menstrual cycle awareness can support you to live in vibrant health. Can't wait for that. Thanks, you two.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie.